Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined in the studio today by good old Gappy, plus Ale Moreno joins us as well. Champions League, we'll explain that later on. All right, Champions League, once again.
That's just lost on people at the top of the...
Hey, don't worry, people will stay tuned now. I wonder what's happened.
Gappy.
PSG, we're taking on AC Milan in the Champions League. This, of course, is the most exciting group. So after that disappointing result against Newcastle, PSG very much back on track, dominating this game pretty much from start to finish as Frank Leboeuf joins us. Frank, they were good today.
Well, they were good second half. The first half, especially the first 30 minutes, they were completely inexistent. Milan overall were poor, but they dominated the first 30 minutes, and we saw nothing from Paris SaintGermain until that action from, at first, Zaïre-Emery and the fantastic goal from Mbappe. And from there, Milan didn't exist anymore, didn't try anything, were pretty much poor, and Paris SaintGermain did what they had to do and what they know how to do, keeping the ball and converting their chances. It was, at the end of the day, an easy game for Paris Saint-Germain because Milan didn't fight. And it wasn't at all, for me, a Champions League game. Didn't see the intensity of the Champions League that we normally see. And, well, you know, a deserving win and a great game for one guy, Zaïre-Emery, not even 18 years old, having a great game.
Tell us about him, Frank.
Well, he's a young guy. He appeared 10 times out of 12 games for Paris Saint-Germain, and have shown his talent. I mean, that's crazy. That's what we see with young guys nowadays, is that they don't have any fear, any kind of... they show maturity at that level, and that really surprises me. He knows exactly what to do, when to do it, and playing very simple, which I think is the most difficult thing in football. Sees everything before everyone. While the guy has, for sure, if he's not injured at some point, he will have a great future, for sure.
He, of course, set up the first goal for Kylian Mbappe, and so much we talk about the circus and the transfers and all the talk and the contracts. When he's on the pitch and he's scoring goals like this, he's something special.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And look, he has to be the guy that stands up when this team are not performing and they're under pressure. And they were, and they have been. This, for me, was not so much about performance. I think longer down the road, they can worry about that. This was about making sure that... We talked about it in yesterday's show with Julian. This guy, Luis Enrique, is under pressure. Is still under pressure, but was under pressure to get a result. Their performance at St James's Park was awful. Mm-hmm. And they needed some sort of response, and they got it in this game. And if we just go back... Yeah, Mbappe carries a lot of the can, but if we go back to Zaïre-Emery at 17, you know, and I presume we're going to talk about Barcelona at some point, and they've got some great kids, obviously, coming through and getting some opportunities because of injuries and doing very well. It is great to see some of these top clubs with billions and billions spent and money in the bank, that young players are still getting an opportunity. They've moved and are moving on some experienced players like Marco Verratti and others in key positions and saying, no, you know, OK, you might be a bit of a problem, but you're a quality player, and we believe these younger players can come in, will do a better job, and are ready to play in the Champions League. I think he's already got a record for Champions League appearances for one so young. So there's a lot to look forward to for PSG, but it was just about getting a big result tonight. Do I think they're going to be close to winning this competition? No, I don't. I absolutely don't. But they'll get to the knockout stages and they'll take their chances.
However, you say that, you look at the final third, you look at Dembele, Muani and Mbappe. If those three can click, then they can pressure any defence in this tournament.
No.
No?
That's not true, Dan. Because we were saying that about PSG with Mbappe, Neymar and Messi.
Because no one's tracking back? Is that where we're still at?
Well, because Dembele still yet to score for PSG. So we've been waiting for him to click for a long time. Barcelona are still waiting for him to click, and it hasn't quite happened. Kolo, Muani, some bright moments, some not so bright moments. It doesn't feel like there's consistency there yet. I still look at this team, and whether they're going to be successful or not cannot depend on a 17-year-old. As good as he was today, he ends up being their best player. And is that what they're leaning on? And while I agree that it's great that a young player is taking this leadership role and is taking on this responsibility and is playing with confidence and has no scars, and best of all, no complaints. You know what the 17-year-old doesn't do? He doesn't complain. He doesn't whine that he doesn't get the ball. He's not getting paid enough, or he didn't get this contract or this, that, and the other. You put him out there, he's happy to be out there, and guess what? And he gives you productivity. That's sort of the example that the rest of PSG should follow. But in terms of your question as to what their long-term future is in this competition, through the midfield and defensively, they have to be better. Milan did not want to play today. They did not. They never engaged in the fight, and Frank alluded to it. They played with no passion whatsoever. They were so very passive defensively. They allowed PSG to just move the ball around whenever they wanted to. But Newcastle showed how you can play against PSG. You get in their faces, you challenge them, and this team kind of falls over. They don't really have the answers, and they just say, oh, give it to Mbappe, he'll figure it out. And it doesn't quite work out when you get further in this competition. They have to improve a lot in order for them to be a major player in Champions League.
You buckled there, didn't you, son?
What?
You threw a bone at Ali, he bit it, ran with it, and you never came back with anything.
Well, I don't think I need to.
What, you threw it out there, you got in the ring and you put the gloves up, you punched you in the nose, and you came back with nothing.
I'm not going to punch back over the front three of PSG. I'm not dying on that sword.
Well, you died on the sword with a question.
Hey, I'm quite happy. I just put the questions out there. Doesn't necessarily have any belief in the
sat there nodding like a nodding dog.
What am I going to say?
Put up some sort of fight, man, for God's sake.
Ali makes very valid points. Are they as hesitant to compliment this front three in France, Frank?
Well, you're talking about the front three? Well, the front three didn't exist the first 30 minutes. I really wonder where Dembele and Kolo were the first 30 minutes. We saw Mbappe a little bit, just a little bit, but really the first 30 minutes, I say, where are the guys? And it's because at the back, Marquinhos decided to do the job, and in the middle of the park, Vitinha, Ugarte, and Zaïre-Emery worked enough to make sure Paris SaintGermain keep the clean sheet. Otherwise, we saw nothing really. And I was wondering halftime. I say, what Luis Enrique is going to do at front, because except that specific action where Mbappe scored, we saw nothing from the three at front. So I'm with Ali. And I understand that you don't ask him any other question about that, because there is nothing much to say about them. Because comparing to Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe at the time, well, there's not much to say. Well, that was really appalling. Okay, they score goal, but they score goals again, a non-existent Milan, which is unbelievable to see an Italian team defending that way, where we know how Italian team can defend throughout decades.
What did Tomori do wrong, Frank, for the opening goal?
It's hard to be tough on him, like it's hard to be tough on Mignon, because at the end of the day, he knows that he's going to go on the right side, but he knows that at some point, if he doesn't tackle, if he doesn't make his body wider, Mbappe is going to find a solution. Maybe he's going to pretend that he's going to shoot and push the ball again until he finds a space. It's hard to cope with him in that situation. He should have been better. One player should have stopped Zaïre-Emery to give the ball to Mbappe. When Mbappe has the ball at least 15 yards away from the goal, it's impossible to cope with him. I won't blame Tomori. It's more Mbappe tricks which made the difference than mistakes from Tomori.
Yeah, Luis Enrique was asked after the game about winning this competition, and he's kind of looking, and he gave a very kind of as diplomatic as an answer as he could. But kind of look in his eye, I was thinking, are you nuts? Because we're making all these changes, we've got all these big egos, we're trying to get the bad apples out, we've got the youngsters coming in. I think what's a more pertinent question is, where's the acceptance level of the exit? Is it round of 16? Is it quarterfinals? I'm talking about with the hierarchy.
What is it then?
I'm kind of thinking with what I'm looking at and what I've seen. And this game was not at the foremost of our viewing today. We had all the games, but that was not the one we were keeping the closest eye on. So Frank's certainly seen a lot more about me, but looking at PSG over the piece of the season, and particularly the game at Newcastle, I think we're looking around quarter-finals.
Right.
But, you know, I'm just wondering where they've had this level where they've thought they're going to win it, they felt like they're going to win it, they almost did against Bayern when Thomas Tuchel was there, fell a bit short, they're a mile short now. Where's the acceptance level of the pressure on him to go in this competition? Certainly from me looking at it, looking at the side and all the changes, it's around the quarter-final, and I don't really see them being much better than that.
Is that good enough, Frank?
But it has to be what it has to be. It's never good enough when you're Paris SaintGermain and you want to win the Champions League, so you want to go far away. I wouldn't say that they are in a year of transition, because they're not, with the player that they have, and they have ambitions. But I'm with Craig. You know, what do you want to dream about if you play that way? It depends even who they're going to play in the last 16. If they play a big team like Real Madrid, Manchester City, or Bayern Munich, I don't see them going through right now. But, you know, time can change. Kolo, Muani and Dembele can start scoring goals and be confident, and maybe that can you know, mature inside the dressing room and be better. But I wish Craig, quarterfinal would already be a good thing for Paris Saint-Germain this season.
Obligatory Pulisic question. How would we rate his performance today?
Well, I would say that he was one of the very few players from Milan that at the very least looked interesting.
Step forward.
Yes, that actually was running at defenders. It wasn't always there. The final touch wasn't quite there. The final decision perhaps wasn't the best at times. But at the very least, I saw a guy that was willing to engage players in 1v1 situations, unlike, say, for example, Rafael Leao, who just because he was wearing the number 10, he now thinks that he's a number 10. He's now sort of in playmaking roles and all this thing and taking touches and step-overs. You're losing 3-0. He's doing step-overs in the middle of the field. If you are that kind of player, Rafael Leao, you should be the one who's taking on players. You should be the one who's running in behind. You should be the one who's engaging the defenders of PSG. Never did that. Milan was nowhere to be found. I suppose that Pulisic gets a passing grade because at the very least he was going after defenders.